They said I was too plain, too boring, too invisible, too ordinary. You need to stand out more. Why can't you be more like them? You're just not special. And slowly, I began to believe it. This fear, that ordinary is somehow wrong, that ordinary means forgotten, lurks beneath the surface of so many lives. It whispers to us in moments of doubt, creeps into our dreams at night, and silently shapes the choices we make every day. But what if this fear isn't just a feeling inside us? What if it's a story we've been told so many times we forgot it's just a story and not the truth? Alfred Adler, a thinker who dared to look beneath the surface of human struggle, believed this fear is universal. Not a sign of personal failure, but a shadow cast by something far deeper. From the moment we begin to understand the world, we are asked, "What do you want to be?" It's asked with a smile, but beneath it is pressure, not just to become, but to become someone admired, respected, exceptional. The message isn't subtle. We're taught to chase uniqueness, to strive for recognition, to build a life that can be clapped for. But very few of us are ever taught how to simply exist without performance. In school, we're ranked. Online, we're measured. Even our joy is packaged and posted. Being just okay, being average, becomes a quiet shame.
There's a story about a boy named Eli. He loved painting, just colors and shapes on scrap paper, not for a gallery, not for likes, just for himself. But by high school, teachers were urging him to enter competitions. Parents asked, "How will this be a career?" Soon Eli stopped painting altogether. Not because he didn't love it, but because the joy of it wasn't enough unless it led to something great. Adler saw this pattern again and again. The fear of being ordinary isn't just a modern anxiety, it's a universal one. It grows out of our deep desire to matter, and when we confuse mattering with impressing, we begin to suffer. Alfred Adler offered a radical idea for his time, that all of us start life with a sense of inferiority, not because we're broken, but because we begin small, dependent, vulnerable. We look up at a world full of strength and skill, and we naturally feel lesser by comparison. This isn't bad. In fact, it's what pushes us to grow. Adler called it the striving for superiority, a healthy inner drive to become more capable, more whole. But here's where things go wrong. When our desire to grow becomes a desperate need to prove, when we stop asking, "How can I learn?" and start asking, "How can I win?" That's when the inferiority complex is born. A loop where we believe we are less, so we must do more. And the more we achieve, the more we fear losing that image. Imagine someone who's constantly performing, at work, in relationships, even alone. They post every success, hide every doubt. Their life looks extraordinary, but inside, they're terrified of what might happen if they stopped shining. Adler warned, when we define our worth by how we appear, not by who we are, we lose touch with our authentic selves. And ironically, we become even more afraid of being ordinary, even though that's what we already are underneath the mask. Adler introduced the idea of life lies, unconscious beliefs that shape how we live. They're not true, but they feel true, so we build our entire lives around them. One of the most powerful life lies today is this: if I'm not exceptional, I'm nothing. This lie drives people into burnout, comparison, and identity crises. It makes us chase careers we don't love, relationships that look good but feel empty, goals we didn't choose but feel obligated to achieve. We see this in so many forms. The student who sacrifices sleep and sanity to top the class. The creator who loses joy in their art because it's no longer about expression but validation. The parent who constantly compares their child's milestones to others, not out of care but out of fear. Adler called the endpoint of this thinking fictional final goals. They're ideals we imagine will solve everything. If I just get that job, if I just hit 100K subscribers, if I just make it to the top. But these goals are illusions, mirages in the desert. You walk miles for them, only to arrive more parched than before.
They never satisfy because they were never rooted in truth. They weren't built from your values or your joy, but from fear, the fear of not being enough. And when fear is the foundation, no matter how high you build, the house will always feel unstable. The world we live in doesn't just reflect the fear of being ordinary, it magnifies it. We now live in what some call the attention economy. Our lives, our thoughts, even our bodies are data points, tracked, analyzed, sold. The system profits when we're dissatisfied, when we think we need more to be more. We scroll endlessly through filtered perfection, highlight reels and metrics that assign value to our worth, likes, views, followers. We compare our inner chaos to others' curated calm, and even when we know it's fake, it still stings. But this isn't just about social media. It's about a culture that measures success by visibility. If it's not seen, it doesn't count. If it's not praised, it's not worthy. In this noise, we begin to ignore the quiet, the real. Adler offered a way out. Social interest, not fame, not dominance, but belonging. Contribution, purpose rooted in connection, not comparison. You don't need to be known by millions to matter deeply to a few. And sometimes the most impactful things are the ones no one sees. The gentle encouragement, the silent presence, the small kindness that changed someone's day. This kind of meaning doesn't glitter, but it glows. Steady, real, human. So, how do we step off the treadmill? Adler's path to healing isn't about giving up ambition. It's about reorienting it, turning it from outward validation to inward alignment. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? Not what job, not what status, what kind of person? Do you want to be kind, curious, creative, reliable? Then build a life that reflects those traits, not because it looks good, but because it feels true. Liberation begins when we stop living to impress and start living to express. You can still chase dreams, still build and grow, but your fuel shifts from fear to joy, from scarcity to abundance, from isolation to connection. When you no longer fear being ordinary, you start to see the beauty in what you already are. A friend, a helper, a listener, a creator, a learner. You begin to realize that ordinary is not the opposite of special. It's the soil from which everything special grows. So, what now? How do we not just understand this, but live it? The answer isn't grand. It's daily, intentional, gentle. Start by noticing the voice that says, "I'm not enough." Not to fight it, but to recognize that voice is not you. It's a story, and stories can be rewritten. Then shift your focus from comparison to connection, from proving to participating. Ask yourself each morning, what small act of care can I offer today? What part of me have I been hiding that wants to be seen, not for applause, but for truth? This is not about giving up on growth. It's about growing from a place of wholeness, not lack. The ordinary isn't your enemy, it's your home. And from that place, quiet, grounded, real, you can build a life that is not only enough, but beautifully, fully yours. There is nothing wrong with being ordinary. In fact, most of what makes life beautiful lives in the ordinary. The friend who listens, the stranger who smiles, the parent who shows up again and again. These are not grand gestures, but they are the soul of who we are. Adler reminds us, you are not here to prove your worth, you are here to live it, and that doesn't require you to be spectacular. It only requires you to be real. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing. And remember, you don't need to be extraordinary to live a life full of meaning.